Mhm.
Hi, it's Paula coming to you live from my lovely living room this week. I'm here today with Richard and Celeste, and of course, my son Tom on drums. And we're here for whoever holds the stone. I did notice, Richard, that Jason held the stone
Isn't that something? You're
at
having an
one
influence
point.
on people.
I noticed that when on his show. Anyway, last week we talked a little bit about how I was reading this book called Think Least of Death, which is about Spinoza's Free Man.
Mm-hmm.
And I told you, Richard, that you had a lot of the attributes of Spinoza's Free Man.
Mm-hmm.
Except I got into the weeds a little bit with it, and there's one thing, and this is something under no circumstances would what Spinoza's free man lie, and that's including to save his life.
Hmm.
Now, what do you think of a philosophy that would make it impossible for you to keep your life because you can't lie, because that telling of a lie breaks the free man whatever code?
Well, I would evoke something that Socrates was said when he asked that question, when he was asked that question. Somebody said to him, is it important to be honest 100% of the time? Because honesty is a great virtue, and you are always promoting being virtuous. Oh, Jill Shanley just joined us.
Oh, really? Hello, yeah. Jill.
Yeah. And he said something that I thought made a lot of sense. He said, well, let's put it this way. If your neighbor just had a fight with his wife, and your neighbor comes to your door and he said, I can't stand my wife anymore. Can I borrow your sword? Is it okay for you to tell a lie and say, oh, I gave that away a long time ago, when you did not? And Socrates said, I would say it would, because there's a virtue higher than honesty, and that's wisdom.
Yes.
And I agree with that. And it's funny because I was listening to a lot of content about Spinoza, but mostly about his ideas on religion, and I was really enjoying it. And then I'm listening to this book. I am less of a Spinoza fan than I started off being. First of all, and he was writing in is it the 16th century or the 1600s? I don't remember exactly. I think it was the 1600s. He was writing in the 1600s. He had an extremely low opinion of women, which probably wasn't unusual, and did not believe that they were capable of intellectual prowess. Okay, so there's one point against him. And then the second point was this lying thing, because I agree with what you said, Richard. There's a higher, it's wisdom. There's some time when but what he was saying was, if you prolong your life with a lie, your life is no longer free. And I don't agree with that. I'm off Spinoza for now. Mm-hmm. Spinoza and I are on the outs.
Well, you know that new TV series, Pluribus?
Pluribus? I don't know about it, no.
I've seen the trailers for it. I've never seen it, though.
It's very philosophical. It's a premise of, what if the aliens sent a virus to Earth that changed the personalities of all the people on Earth, except for 12? And how would those 12 people be able to get along with everybody else who had the same personality? And one of the things in the personality, if you get infected by the virus, is you cannot lie. So these 12 people who the virus didn't affect them for some unknown reason, they say, wow, we got to fight back against this, because do we want to live in a world where everybody thinks alike? And one of the things that the people who have the virus, they never can lie, ever. And so the 12 people say, they cannot lie. So they ask them questions like, are you secretly working on a way to change our DNA so we become like you? And they go, yes, we are. and how is this, and what is the latest things that you're working on? They said, stem cell research. And how would you exactly do that to us? And they would say, well, you would have to agree to it because we'd have to put it into your body with a hypodermic needle. So it's an interesting, there's so many philosophical conundrums in this TV series. And there's another good series too that I absolutely love called The Lowdown. Have either of you heard about this?
No, I haven't.
I can see why Ethan Hawke signed on to it. It's about somebody who's a writer, and he does exposés on people who have done corruption. And he lives in Oklahoma. And there's so much in this series about the power of the written word. It is just incredible. I mean, Who wrote this series? It's got to be somebody who is a diehard author and believes in how reading can transform your life, because it keeps coming up over and over again.
Where's that streaming? Lowdown. I don't know.
I could look it up for you, and I'll send it to you in a message.
Yeah, I do think I've said this many times. I believe that every time you read something, it changes slightly the way you think. You're adding fodder to what's already in there. And Brian Muka had just asked a question about did Spinoza mean it was a big? Spinoza meant any lie at all, and even if it's to save your life. So it made me think that the logic in that didn't make sense to me, Brian. So I might not be reading a lot of Spinoza anymore. But and now I completely lost my train of thought because I tried to think two things at once. Oh yeah, reading. Reading. It's amazing because you get all this knowledge that these people figured out in their lifetime and they wrote about, and then you get to ingest it. They figured it out. They figured out a big thing, and you get to have that. It's like a gift.
So all these gems are in the dialogue. Like at one point, someone says to the writer, "Why are you so determined to go after this person?" And he responds, "A person's soul, or lack of it, is made evident by what they can carve on a white piece of paper."
Wow.
I'm interested in this show too. So when you send it to Celeste,
I'll send you both
it to me as well.
links to it. Yeah.
I don't know if we have that, whatever platform it is, but I'm interested in it.
Well, one thing about it, it makes you think about the pressure of committing something to paper and then sharing it. That was that's weight upon the writer. And I think for him to write that, which, that's someone you have a fascination with, I'm not totally familiar with. I think the level of vanity there is crazy. Like to pontificate at that level about, the value of life for everybody, that takes a lot of that takes a lot of vainglorious thinking for me, right?
Well,
I can't imagine. You could say, well, this is preferable, this is honorable, but you can't, for me, say, look, this is the rule for everybody. And if you don't do this, then, all of you are shortchanging in terms of your life worth living kind of thing.
Well,
That's a
the free, and are you talking about the free man concept, the
yes, yes,
Spinoza thing? Yeah, I found that to be a lot of hubris. I didn't. That's one of the things that just turned me off to it
yeah.
completely.
And you know how ridiculous it can be. Who's the guy? He made the movie. He's a famous. He's the guy that does Ace, Pet Ventura.
And he's the director of that movie or the writer? Or?
No, he starred in it.
Oh, that would
and
be-
he couldn't
yeah.
tell a lie. Do you remember that? Remember that movie? It was
Oh.
hilarious.
James
Oh,
Carrey.
Jim Carrey? Is that what you said, Tom?
Jim Carrey. That's who I'm trying to think of.
Betty
And he
Thomas.
made a movie. It was a comedy, but it focused on the fact that he couldn't lie, and
It would have
it was
an
a
impact.
terror through the.
I have often said that one of the most wonderful things about life is that people can't read my mind. I don't
Yeah,
want people to know what I'm thinking, and if I couldn't lie a little bit, if I couldn't temper my truth,
Yeah, yeah.
what kind of
Yeah.
world would it be?
And I like Rich's comment about, the comment about wisdom, because, that's how you raise your children, right? You raise your children on a pack of lies in order to make them productive and socially competent people.
Well, you try to get them to the point where they don't blurt things out that are true,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
"Oh,
Yeah.
look how fat that lady is," or
Yeah.
"Oh, that guy has a weird nose." You try to get them to the point where they're kind. I mean, there's
Yes.
a level of kindness that you have to teach them that I don't think we're born with that. I think it's something we have to learn.
Yeah.
It's true.
No, I agree.
And that's where the parent comes in. When I was a young boy, my father would always show articles to me in the sports section about the Buffalo Bisons. And I got to know all the players by just what was written about them. And then he took me to an actual baseball game. Now look, and this is a perfect illustration of what Paul is talking about. I said, "Hey, Dad, I know the names, but who are the players?" And I said, "Who is this guy, Babe Brewer?" He says, "He's standing right over there," because we had good seats. We could look at the faces. And then
Yeah.
I said, "What about Bobby Wine?" And he says, "He's right in front of us at third base." And I said, "He's that ugly?" And my father said, "That's the kind of thing you'd never want to say."
Out loud.
Out loud. Well, and you can only, it made me think of a childhood story with my oldest daughter. We were riding on the bus, and there had been a lady who gotten on the bus, an older lady, very stylish, this Buffalo Metro, and before the train and all the rest of that. This is years ago, like 40 years ago, because my daughter's older.
Yeah.
And even more, right? And she got on the bus, and those scarves that you've seen the women were proud of wearing in the 40s and 50s and 60s. They were like the little animals linked together around the neck, like a collar.
Like a fur, like a
Like
fur.
but they clipped
Yeah. Oh,
together.
yeah. My Aunt
So it was
Bertha had one of those.
Yes, because you were that was it. You were on the Ritz. And so she got on the bus, and we were sitting in those front two seats, and she sat on the side. And I guess Junior must have been about 2. Because after that way. And so Lou was looking at the lady, and I was smiling, trying to think, okay, don't think saying something wrong with my baby. She's okay. And then she leaned over and tapped the lady, and she said, lady, your dog is dead. Like, oh my God. Oh my God. No, I'm so sorry. She didn't really mean it.
Because she didn't know, that was her frame of reference. She
Yes.
didn't know. I know, and I remember that I think one of the best things about my poor memory is that for some reason I remember what it was like to think like a child. And I remember
Yeah.
making some really bad, I mean, you take all the information that you've been fed so far and you
Mhm.
make decisions based on that.
Yeah.
And that was a decision that your small child had made based on the
Oh,
limited amount of information she had.
yeah.
But
And I
that's
want to say,
actually a funny story.
oh, yeah, because I mean,
I'm
like, how
sure
do
it
you
wasn't
feel
funny
now,
at the,
right? When you
yeah.
feel as a child that you have a dead dog on your body. But I was, like, overly apologetic and apologizing. Right.
That's a great story, Celeste. That is
Oh my
really.
God. Only the truth could make you, say, oh, geez. But yeah. So,
So, so we have these topics here, and you know what, Richard, I did want to talk, even though you did talk on the No Exit show about the mental illness, the day the mental illness was invented.
Yeah.
I would like to touch on that a little bit because there's I love the idea that the people who had, especially schizophrenic people, were thought to be gifts from God,
Yeah, they
were,
experienced God. Yeah. And their
Yeah.
minds couldn't handle it.
yeah, and that's something that I think a lot of people don't realize, that mentally ill people were not recognized as such until.
So Thomas Aquinas, he wrote in the 1200s. And and the last thing he wrote was, I just realized today that everything I've written is like straw. And he put his pen down, he never wrote again. Now, the Catholic Church had to come up with an excuse, but they did what was very prevalent at the time. They said, oh, well, it's obvious what happened. He experienced God and his mind couldn't handle it.
oh,
See, so that's exactly the tradition. If you had some kind of mental illness, it's because you experienced God.
yeah. And what he experienced was a different level of reality about his writing. He said, everything I've written is straw. That's a really harsh condemnation of your work.
Now, my interpretation is he was a gifted teacher. He would say to his class, okay, so next week we're going to discuss the Holy Trinity. This side of the class, I want you to come back with all the arguments about why it's false. And then on this side of the class, you got to come back with all the arguments why it's true. And he could
Yes.
do that because he was the most famous teacher in the world. I think what happened is he realized that this whole ideology of Christianity and a separate reality where you don't die, I think he realized that it was false. And he
Yeah.
couldn't come right out and say it, so he had to say it in
Yeah.
this obscure way.
And
Yeah.
that's we talked about this a little bit in the prior weeks too. That's kind of existential angst, right? Not, it's all meaningless, but it wasn't invented in the 20th century. No.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's always been a harsh burden.
So the day that the first mental institution was invented was April 27th, 1656. What would be a good thing to commemorate that day with? Like, how should we commemorate it?
I don't know. I don't
Right.
think it's anything to celebrate. I think I'm sure that those mental institutions in the 1600s were just places to, like, a warehouse for crazy people. I'm sure there weren't any ways of talk therapy or anything like that. I mean, what did they do with them? Just lock them down? They
did
I know in the Forest Avenue and the psychiatric center. I used to work in what I used to call the scary building that turned into the hotel with the spires, and a security guard or was a maintenance. Somebody took me on a tour of the parts of the building that weren't used. They had shackles in the walls,
Wow.
and they used to lock people down. And so I'm sure it couldn't have been any different than that. So I don't know if we should celebrate. I think I'd rather celebrate the guy who experienced God Day.
Ah.
Well, to come up with something for many, many years, my aunt, now passed away, rest in peace, was a nurse at over there in Forest Avenue. And a couple of things she would say, and one of them was the medications that they gave people.
Mm-hmm.
People would have different responses and different reactions to them.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them were violent, some of them were not. Some of them had different types of disabilities, and they were just being designated as persons that had mental illness. Some of these people had been addicted to drugs, for example. And I mean, it was kind of like a catch-all. If a person had extreme autism, for example, or maybe if the person was just homeless and responding,
Right.
Maybe they were victims of war. I mean, it was hard
Right.
to determine. And she did talk about the violence, but she said, sometimes, and here's the other interesting thing, sometimes as a survival mechanism, if people were homeless or something, they would adapt or copy behaviors in order to not be
Have a place to
dismissed
be.
Yeah. Right.
or, assimilate or,
Yeah. And in Italy during the rise of Mussolini, there was a rule that mentally ill people couldn't go into the military. People would fake it. They would fake
Wow.
it and go into the asylum rather than go into the military.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's no, go ahead.
That makes it that. I mean, to me, that's what Klinger did on MASH. He pretended to be mentally ill because he wanted to be released.
Yeah.
So I think it's I think it's a good strategy.
So this is a story from my life. When I was 18 and I didn't understand anything about the draft, but when you're 18, you had to register. And I looked up in the phone book and it said Draft Counseling Center. So I called them up and they said, yeah, come on in, we'll explain it to you. It was a Quaker thing that was used to tell people, look, you don't have to go if you don't want to. Here's your alternatives. And I thought these people were so wonderful that I after my initial meeting, I said, can I come back again? Because I kind of like it here. They said, sure. And then eventually they were letting me sit in on the counseling sessions. So I was sitting in on a session and somebody came in, he goes, under no circumstances am I going to go into the military. And so they said to him, well, when you were here before, we told you all the possibilities. And he said, yes. And I went to a psychiatrist and he said, it's amazing what the psychiatrist did for me in 10 minutes. And he showed us the letter that the psychiatrist wrote for him. And it read like this: Mr. So-and-so is a compulsive masturbator, which is an indication that he is very unfulfilled in his longings to have a meaningful relationship with the world, which means he is isolated and incapable of operating in a military unit. And the counselor looked at me and said, I wouldn't show this to too many people because it really paints you in a bad light. And he said, psychiatrists have the ability to do that. They can take certain things you do that a lot of people say, oh, that's normal, but they can make it seem like it's symptoms of a much darker thing that's haunting you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, whatever got him out of service if he didn't want to go. I mean, The draft, I don't know. I mean, Celeste, you're the only one of us here that comes from a military family. What do you think of the draft?
Well, that's a hard question, and it's a hard question, but in the way it is now and the way it was, I think compulsory service has an upside and a downside, of course. The upside is that you're going someplace where you're going to be trained, where you're going to, like, the benefits of serving are really important. The opportunity to engage other people are really important and, beneficial. The big downside, of course, is when you're being conscripted and it's into conflict, right?
Yeah.
So, my dad, and he's passed on now, rest in peace, did hazardous tours of duty on 4 separate occasions. And the last tour is really what sort of put him over the edge, right? Back then they called, and he was not running through the swamps with a gun. He was a communications specialist, but it was still being in that atmosphere. My first husband was a ranger, and so they did, the grunt work, if you will. And he was only there a short time because he was an only child, and the military at that time, when they found out that there was an only male child in active service like that, pulled them out because they talked about continuing a family legacy. And then my second husband was a paratrooper in airborne. And he suffered emotionally quite a bit. He's not deceased. We're still very good friends. He's a great person, talented guy. But it was, the adjustment coming back as a Vietnam vet was very hard coming back to the United States. And he is a wounded warrior. And so, I wish there was an instance where you didn't have to have an army, right? Where you didn't need these, soldiers, like the Pope. The Pope has an army. They ain't going to fight nobody. They dress up in a uniform and they parade around the principality, Swiss Guard. But I guess, unfortunately, the way the world is, everybody's got an army of some kind.
Yeah,
and the primary purpose is defense of war.
I remember the draft when I was a teenager. I had friends that were old enough to get drafted, and I remember sitting around watching them pull the numbers for the draft board, and like everybody holding their breath. It was awful because there are just some people who shouldn't have to do that. There's levels of sensitivity. I guess they try to get that out of you, like to make you less sensitive. But I don't know a lot of people that are like artists or creative people who could handle. Like, I know that there's a lot of writers that went to war and they wrote about it then afterwards.
Yeah,
but I can't imagine what that's like, having someone train you to desensitize you to what you have to do when you go into a war zone.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible. And some can talk. In fact, post when we were doing the with my second husband, the VA was offering these opportunities for, the vets to get together, convene and share experiences. And some of those conversations, the guys were limited in what they could share in public by, I don't know, some sort of orders during their time in service, where they had to talk about it in private because their information was scheduled to be sealed and could not be unsealed until a given point in the future. which is,
Yeah.
that was another hardship. So the military was good to me because I was a dependent. I was a dependent child and I was a dependent wife. So I got a chance to live and travel in Europe and have a different kind of education.
Right.
Our family was Air Force family. I think the Army and the Marines might have had a tougher go of it because they were the front lines in battle the majority of the time. So, I love the military. I respect our soldiers. I think this contemporary modern era, like post-conscript into now another type of service, does not treat soldiers and veterans well at all. At all. And we as a country, we got a long way to go in terms of responding properly to them.
I think the people, the people who are in the lower socioeconomic group who think of going into the service at this time as a good life career move, I think we're not. They're not respected because of where they come from. The socioeconomic background is not something they're looked down upon, which is awful because these are people protecting our country.
Yeah,
these are the people that are giving their time and their everything that they have in order to serve the country. And so, why we're not treating them with respect is beyond me.
I don't know, because you expect everything from them. And, you get the educational benefit. Well, you used to. Like I'm saying, I don't know how the guys in the Army and Marines are at this point. The Air Force still has a little different thing happening. But, you're supposed to get housing. You're supposed to get a food allowance. You're supposed to get medical care. All of these things are supposed to be part of supporting and ensuring that the soldier and his families are well taken care of while they're off, serving the country and facing hazards. Yeah. And I don't know that some of those goals are being met. I read somewhere that at one point soldiers were having to buy armor or something crazy. Whoever heard of such a thing like that? That they didn't have enough, allowance, or Yeah, you can't. You're right. We're not.
First of all, now I don't know what's going to happen now when we have a president who wants to attack Greenland. I mean, what's going on? Sending soldiers into domestic territory, into Minneapolis. So, what's going on?
It's an absolute situation. Dichotomy as to what the purpose of the military is and what those soldiers swear to do. And this thing that's happening right now with the deployment of troops against protesters is, that goes on my un-American list. Okay.
Yeah, it's every
that's part of the Edward R. Murrow story and trying to ditch McCarthy.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how we're gonna. I don't know when they're going. The Hague is going to say, "Look, these are war crimes. What's going on here? We have to do something. We have to stop this megalomaniac."
Yeah. Based on the Canadian Prime Minister's comments recently, like as recently as yesterday or today, I think we might be getting closer to that than we think we are. Yeah.
That was in the news today.
Yeah. What was in the news, Richard?
Let's see here. Congress quietly moves U.S. closer to military draft. There's been a change to the Selective Service Act.
Oh boy!
They say that right now it's voluntary to sign up for military service, and they are changing the act to say that you will automatically be registered with the Selective Service System, but you won't necessarily be called.
Well, that's just more lies because once you're registered, unless something is wrong with you physically, off you go. I mean, that's a fact. So, that's where we're headed. So if you have teenage boys or girls, I don't know how they, well, Headsets doesn't think women belong in the service, which is too bad
right.
because
So
some of the greatest pilots and other kinds of operators have been female. So
that's just,
I don't know.
it's just rampant ignorance.
Yeah.
The whole cabinet is filled with idiotic, uneducated, hateful human beings.
Yeah.
What is wrong with Stephen Miller?
Well, I think he's the master demon. I think,
I think so too.
The president is, just, very self-grandized in terms of everything is about him. Anytime it's about him. He's not the big thinker. The greed power guy. And he says it publicly. It's not as if he's pretending. He was on one of these, I don't know, Fox, I guess, the Trump channel, saying, the world runs on control and power and aggression, and we have that, and that's who we are, and that's what we're going to do. I mean, he doesn't pretend to even want to be conscientious or diplomatic.
Yeah, he is definitely mentally ill. He's the most dangerous man. He's more dangerous than Trump.
Absolutely. And those people behind him, the Palantir guy and Niles, whatever, the one who, the guys who dug up J.D. Vance and put him in place because he was nowhere fast, and they went out and found him and groomed him up. They were all founders together with PayPal. So it was like Musk, Palantir, and this other guy, Niles something. I'm not going to say his name because if I say it wrong once, I'll never get it right. So.
Yeah, well, so anyway, we got really into the weeds there with that. So Richard, is there something on this list that you really would like to bring up right now?
They're all equal to me.
They're all equal.
Yeah.
Okay, so
while you're looking at the list, I would like to thank Vanessa, Lori, and Brian for the many, many comments that they're leaving.
Yeah, we're really getting it's quite overwhelming. I'm trying to look at them, so I'm hoping you guys don't feel slighted that I'm not commenting, but it's overwhelming for me. I think I'm between trying to concentrate on what we're talking about and trying to read some of these things. I can't really get into that space. But Richard, I feel like there must be one here. How about a soul made evident? Did you talk about that?
I already brought that
one?
up. That was the thing about a person's soul or lack of it is made evident by what they can carve on a white sheet of paper.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, so I'm not fussy about which one you want to talk about, Richard. I'm having a hard time focusing today. I guess I'm just maybe my brain's frozen.
Yeah, so I mean, if you tell me which one just strikes your fancy, I'll read it.
Did we talk about the woman's obligation?
No.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Here's a topic suggested by Mr. James Walker.
Okay.
In contemporary American culture, is it still the man's obligation to pay for the cost of the date when he's out with a woman?
It depends on the people. You can't say that as a general rule. Well,
I mean, let's say somebody comes to you for
man,
advice and he said, I'm I'm going out on a date with this woman. Do you advise them and say, well, you should really pay for the date?
Well, I would say that maybe if it's concerning, you should bring it up front. Say, I'd like to take you out and treat you to a meal. I mean, this way it's taken care of and you don't have to worry about it when you get to the table. I mean, if I were to invite someone out, a man or a woman, I would say that it was my place to pay. But if somebody invites me out, then maybe you can't say there's no overall rule on that as far as I'm concerned. What do you think, that there's a rule, Celeste, that the man should pay or that people should
Well,
split?
I think as time goes on, it kind of depends on the individual value systems because times have changed a little bit. I do say, and I'll tell you why I say this too, because men tend to, fancy themselves to want to be in charge and all the rest of that. So you can
Yeah.
talk about going Dutch because I say for some women, when you're going out with a guy you don't know him that well,
Right.
it might be
You don't want to be obligated.
right. You can say, let's split the bill. I do think a conversation, ahead is good. And then people say, well, how you want to do this? And the gentleman, if he wants to, pick up the tab, the guy wants to pick up the tab, he'll say, listen, I want to take you. Let me do this or whatever. That's what I've seen. And that's what I've been my experience. Or if the woman offers, can I contribute or something like that? Oh, they'll say, oh, no, your money's no good here or whatever. So I don't know.
But there's no free lunch.
Right.
That's how I always felt. I always felt like, okay, if I'm going out with someone and they pay, I'm going to make it clear that if we go on another date, I'm going to pay because I don't want to feel obligated in any way. And that's the cultural norm, is that when someone takes you out to dinner, that is a power. That's a power play.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say it like that. The world shouldn't be like that. But
well, it goes way back to how often it is, and where they're trying to put women now, where your resources are less, and you're part of the cooperation submission team, and the guy is supposed to demonstrate his capacity to be a provider. I mean, it boils down to that very fundamental kind of rule. And some guys are very comfortable with that, and they like to do that, especially if they have the means to do that, or they want to demonstrate their capacity to provide and be helpful, protector, etc. And some more contemporary women can say to a guy, let's hang out and we can split the bill. Let me treat you next time. It's a little bit more fluid than it started out with, women not having it. It was a courtship ritual.
Right.
And it was
Right.
standard practice
And it was
during those older courtship
It was
rituals.
understood that women didn't have the same resources as men.
Exactly.
So the men were making more money.
Yeah.
And they would
And that's
take.
how it went, And
Right.
you had to dial up and be, arm candy because that was your job, right?
Right.
His job was to pay, your job was to be, so the old adage, men are judged by what they do, women are judged by how they look, right? So
I'm
that's
Mick.
an old.
Mick is here now. The thing is, I think with James Walker, in all of his, I don't know, I think he has still got these, this belief system that is archaic, but the world is changing, and James wants it to remain the same. And I don't think that that's going to happen. I have to get up for a moment. I hate to stop this in the middle here, but I have to get up for a moment. I have to check on something. I will be right back.
Okay, be careful, girl.
I will.
Celeste, we were talking about that school in Louisiana before
Yes.
the show started.
Yes.
Now, this is an interesting topic because somebody called up the New York Times and they said, can I talk to your reporter who deals with education issues? So they put her in touch with the reporter. And the person said, you know about the school in Louisiana that 100% of the students every year get into college? And she said, yes, I've heard about that school. It's a private school, and no matter who goes to that school, they wind up getting into college. Rich or poor, they accept everybody, yet everybody gets into college. She says, you want to know why that's the case? Because I can tell you, because I worked at the college. And so she told her, she said, the person who is in charge of the college knows what to say to the administrators who allow you into, Princeton and Harvard and all the Ivy League schools that will tug at their hearts. And the students are coached to make up lies and say things like, I was in a family where I was abused by both my parents, and I ran away a few times because I couldn't handle it. And they would make up these narratives that would tug at the heartstrings of the administrators who would let them in regardless of their SAT scores. So the reporter went down there and started doing her investigation. What do you think was the reaction of the parents of the students who were in the school when they heard about this reporter down there?
I think the parents were probably not happy because they were happy that their kids were getting into college one way or another.
Exactly.
And yeah.
And
the parents were aware. The parents were aware that that the kids were making up these stories.
Well, the parents said, "So what?" They said, "Don't you think wealthy people hire applications people to fill out their kids?"
Yes.
They said they do it all the time. So if they cheat, why are you objecting to the poor cheating?
Right. And that's what they were talking about, access. I mean, one of the big things that Ivy Leagues have to talk about, and I'm sure it's on, and maybe not just Ivy Leagues, but legacy enrollments, right? You have a whole bunch of kids that just get rolled in because
because the parents were there.
Yeah, the parents and the grandparents, or the big donor or the ex-donor.
Donors,
Right. So, that was their way of leveling the playing field and giving those kids an opportunity they would never otherwise be able to have. So I'm sure the parents told her, you can go away. You can go away now.
Yeah.
Okay. Go back to New York where you came from, Yankee.
That's exactly what they said. They said, you're one of those Yankees who comes down here, stirs up trouble, and then leaves.
Yep.
This
Listen,
was in the
I got
Times,
roots in
Richard?
Texas, Louisiana. I know what they say.
Richard,
Bye,
this
y'all.
was something you read in the Times, Richard?
Oh, there's a channel on YouTube called Book TV.
Oh, okay.
So all the newest books that come out, they bring in the authors, and then they give a talk, and then the audience talks to them. And this was on this week's Book TV.
Uh-huh.
I have to watch more of that because I see it and then I look at it and I keep going, and I don't know why I don't stop more with that. I need to do more with that. So
Yeah, there's nothing consistent that I watch unless it's, something from Think Twice.
mm-hmm.
It just doesn't seem like I have enough time for everything that I'd like to do. I could use, I mean, if they're going to, let's pass some legislation to get some more hours in the day.
I have to be candid here. There's so much going on externally that just sets me aflame that I'm struggling to focus on my work that I need to do. Like I have commitments and deadlines and a number of things that I need to manage, but I'm distracted by, the government and its impact. Like I feel like our country and beyond, we're just coming unraveled at the edge, and there's not much I can do about it.
I know.
Like this
It
list
makes
of
me,
countries that's come out. I have friends and family abroad. Can I go see them and come back safely? I have a 14-year-old in my house. Do I have to worry about him being conscripted now to go? Or, is Canada going
Yeah.
to be so mad at us that they won't let us in? I mean, and the cruelty that's out there, this shooting, there's a thing published. We talked about, the losses of 2026, but there have been quite a few lives lost during 2025 as a result of this surge in purging.
and people being sent to countries that they're not even from, and they haven't done anything illegal, and it's just a numbers game. They're trying to get at anyone who doesn't look like the founding fathers out of the country, if at all possible. The guy who shovels my snow is from Puerto Rico, which is part of the United States. I'm
Yes.
afraid for him.
Listen,
I would.
yeah, they're rounding up Native Americans and putting them
Oh, that's
someplace.
right. I did hear that the other day.
I mean, and the tribal leaders are. I want to say, how stupid are you? Like, how stupid are you? And there's
Very
a
stupid.
there's a
I'll answer that. Very,
right.
very.
And people are not informed about what they have to, do in order to respond. But even if you try to follow the law, they don't follow it. There's a tracking site. I'll send you the link that tells you during the months in what states how many people have been detained and how many have criminal backgrounds. And according to this, because it's through customs and I guess whatever you want to call them, marauders, how they track the people that they're detaining. 73% of the people detained, 25 and 26, have no criminal reference at all.
Well, they're saying
And the
that
number
they're in
of
the
criminals
country
that they've detained is about 5%.
They're
5%
saying
of
that
thousands.
because they're in the country illegally, that's a criminal act. That's what they're saying, and that's ridiculous.
Yeah, because not all of them are that great either. Some of them are not allowed to show their papers. Some of them have papers.
There were
Yes.
citizens that were
Citizens.
detained.
Yes. And it's just, and some post somewhere, and I don't know about the validity of it, but it sounds true, is that they're making like $200,000 a year. And that the government at this point is spending more on ICE than the United States Marines.
Yes,
Are you
yes,
kidding
I
me?
know.
So I don't know what that whole number is, but how can you spend more on,
$200,000 a year? These goons are making these
200,000.
goons.
That was his number. He boasted that on, I don't know, YouTube, TikTok, something.
Oh my God.
200,000. And now the Pentagon or somebody is asking for more money for them.
Well,
I don't even know what to say about that. We're worried about health care.
I don't know. Right. There's people who are going to die because they don't have health care. And then there's all these they can't pass the fitness test.
No.
I mean,
I don't know if they can pass a literacy test.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. No, that was never a consideration.
I don't know what that was. But this is, and Richard, you can help me here, but I think this is what they called during World War II, the brown shirt mentality. Is this how that works? That sort of blind cruelty, following orders thing?
Oh, you mean the psychological impact of how they teach the soldiers?
Yeah,
Or
like
are you
the
saying,
guys.
do they accept more people who are biased than ones who are not biased?
Well,
Yeah,
those are the people that ask for the jobs. I can't see somebody, a liberal, wanting to be an ICE agent.
Mm.
You know, I
no.
mean, uh, so yeah,
I can't either. I don't understand that. And I'm from a military family. I understand going to war. I don't endorse it. I don't like it, but I understand it. This ICE thing, I ain't getting it at all because
yeah,
it
it's
doesn't have rhyme, reason. It's not constitutional. I mean, it's like, and this demand that uh, they're making on these smaller countries, there are nations that are smaller than some of our states. So
yeah.
how you can expect them to ante up financially? Like when the president says, "Oh, we're giving this or we're giving that." Yeah, because you got 48 mainland states and a couple on the outside that you gather from. The United Kingdom and I don't know Delaware are about the same size. You know what I'm saying? It's
Well. Now, there was. I had something in my head. Like I said, I'm not functioning at full throttle here. But we I saw something on Facebook. This Maria, remember Maria Richard?
From Denmark?
Yes, I think that she had posted some photographs of people protesting the Make America Go Away with the Make America Go Away hats. They had. So she posted something about the protests, and there were a lot of people that were
yeah.
protesting.
Well, at this point,
So
protesting I think is self-expression, but because we have a new kind of enemy, we need a new kind of strategy. Thousands of people
that's
marching
yeah.
worked at a time, but this is not valuable to these people who believe they're elite, right? There, it's
Right.
just like a lot of minions making a lot of
Well,
noise.
they think that they're staged. They don't even think that the people are against what they're doing. They think that the Democrats have arranged these protests to make them look bad. That's
Well,
the
even
state
that.
of mind that they're
Well,
in.
that's some people believe in that, but I think that's more their gaslighting. I agree with you, but I think they don't care. I think if you want to rally up on this group, you have to impact their power and impact their pocketbook, however that happens.
Well, don't you
And
think
if it
it
means don't buy nothing from them, then don't. Right?
yeah, does it? I mean, but how about the people in Denmark who are protesting? As in on an international stage, isn't it more impactful to have those people protesting the America coming in and trying to take Greenland?
Well,
To
I
me,
certainly think, I certainly think it's problematic in terms of a global strategy. Like it will unite Europe, it will
against
strengthen
us.
China,
Yeah. So
and
we
it will
go to
let
war.
Putin.
We go to war with an allied country, and the rest of the allies, the rest
Yeah,
of NATO has to be at war with us.
exactly.
We're
And
starting
the
a
sad
war
part is,
against us.
you're supposed to support your members in NATO. So the
Thank you,
United States
yeah.
has started an offense against people that they're supposed to protect and pretending they're protecting it, but we know that's not the case.
Yeah, that's
So
for
now
sure.
NATO will probably unravel and it'll be, Europe against the United States or something crazy.
Okay, I see that, Tom. We got 39 seconds. Thank you for making me focus, Tom. You know I'm unfocused. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Richard, thank you again for always doing this for everyone. And Celeste,
Yeah.
you're a great guest. And you know what, Brian, next time, Brian, maybe you can come on the show on Zoom instead of, because it's hard for me to read all of your comments. I know that you've got a lot of thoughts on this stuff. So thank
Yeah.
you, Tom. Thank you, everyone. This
Okay.
has been great. And maybe someday I'll get my brain back.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Vanessa.